What's going on, you guys? Slim back here once again to bring you guys a new video, and today I've got my ultimate side deck guide for this new format here in January 2021. If you guys are new here, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell. You guys will be notified whenever I upload. You'll also be notified when I stream over on Twitch. The link is in the description. Do consider joining my Twitch. We stream multiple times a week over there. We just have a really good time, hang out. We do a lot of old school duels, new format duels, and just have a lot of great just Q&As and just talking and chilling, and it's just a really great time and really cool way for you guys to kind of just unwind and just hang out and just play the game that we all love. Also consider joining my Discord. The link is in the description. That's if you ever want to join my streams. You can always be my guest on my stream. I love having people come on there and just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! I always love having a lot of guests. It becomes like a podcast while we're also playing some competitive games online, so definitely check that out. As always, if you want to purchase any of the cards that I talk about today, and you probably will because these are very important side deck cards to have, especially if you're playing in remote duels, please use my TCG player link. It's in the description below. A portion of what you spend will go back to the channel. It helps me out and I really do appreciate it. And last but not least, if you want to further support me in the channel, consider joining my Patreon, where I have 4 different tiers, nothing over $10, just a lot of awesome extra bonus awards and videos you're not going to see over here on the channel. With all that out of the way, you guys, let's get into it. I'm really going to try to keep this video as concise as possible because while some things have changed, the only real new deck in the room is Drytron, and you could even say to an extent the Evil Twin cards that are working with Eldritch, but we can handle Eldritch pretty much the same way. So I've broken this down into multiple categories of cards that you will probably want to side deck. Now remember, you only get 15 cards, but I'm going to give you guys all the potential options. There's some budget options, some non-budget options, and they're just the best cards that will give you the best chance against the meta. So we'll get into it. Like I do with pretty much every video, you'll see I start with what I feel are like the staple Trinity. These 3 are just like, I feel like they're always going to be in your deck no matter what. They might be in your main deck, they might even they might all be in your main deck, but most of the time they're in your side deck. Pank, Heavy, Harvey's Feather Duster, and Reboot. I know not every deck is going to play cards like Reboot, but if your deck can play them, these are just honestly some of the best cards. Pank is obviously the best side deck card pretty much in existence right now. It always has been. There's a reason it's at 1. Duster is just your blowout against back row. Same with Red Reboot. I don't really need to explain these. I just like to mention them because to me they feel like a trinity that should be in the game always. We're going to go to hand traps. So hand traps, there's a lot. I'm going to start with one that really does not see a lot of play, but I do want to mention it just because I feel like it would be a disservice not to, and that actually is the Gamma Driver package. I know, shocker, right? This used to be like a staple in like every single side deck, and now we just don't see it as much. Now, the only deck I know that does main deck it effectively is Virtual World, and that does make sense since they all activate in hand. However, I haven't really seen another deck play it, but it is something I have seen more players are side decking. I guess it's matchup specific, but honestly it's still one of the best hand traps you can play, and if you don't have access to some of these other hand traps, it is just a good option. The only downside, of course, you have to play the brick, but you know, we still are taking those risks because it's just such a good card in any format. The rest of these just very generic. It's weird to say that this should be in your side deck, but if for some reason it's not in your main deck, it's just the most generic hand trap in existence, so there's no reason not to have it at least in your side deck. So that's Ash, but these are the real all-stars. We've got Bell, Meister, and Crow. These 3, these Elite 9 as I call them, really are just that good. These are all the ones that hit hand traps. These 2 are not once per turn. Bell is, however, these are the ones that hit the graveyard, and that is huge this format. Eldritch is everywhere. Drytron is everywhere. You know, even Virtual World. There is just something that all these cards hit. They're also very good against dinosaurs because miscellaneous saurs. Do not neglect that deck. That deck is still very strong in this format. It may not have as much representation because Drytron and new other decks are out, but do not sleep on that. These cards are just all very good in the format. These are the hand traps that I think are just some of the best right now. A lot of the decks that can play heavy hand traps are relying more on like Bell and Ash and Meister and Crow. Crow is great because it can hit any card in the opponent's graveyard. Meister is great because it can stop graveyard effects, and same with Bell. Bell is also like a way to stop cards like Call by the Grave, stuff like that. So this card is just very, very strong. These are the best ones in my opinion, and the ones that you should have access to. These are just the gold rares, so you can get this unless you were lucky enough to get the secrets. This also has a common print, but this is like one of the lower rarity ones because the secrets are just too expensive, and Crow has had a million printings, so you should have access to them. These are just the cards I like to play. If they're not in your main deck, like I said, find room for them in your side deck because the way the format has shifted, it's one of the biggest changes you'll see in this video as compared with our previous one during the last format. And then one of the other hand traps that is pretty much matchup dependent, but probably the best against Drytron is Droll. Now, I've heard from players that they can still do some plays through Droll, but I also know that this card can be a total blowout. It completely stops the turn, and that's kind of all you need to do to, you know, get them to pass, and then you do your plays. So this is matchup dependent. This is strictly a side deck card. I haven't really seen any decks main it because it's not really great against any of the other decks of the format. But if you can Droll the Drytron player, they usually pass. So this is a very good card. Like I said, it's strictly for Drytron, but I wanted to mention it. A card that's fallen out of favor, like in the main deck, but it's still very good against Virtual World, is Nibiru. This is just punishing overextension. That's all it is. Don't really have to say that much. Virtual World players, if they're not playing Gospel Shadow, don't play around this properly, so this is a good card to have. So I had to mention it. But if they are playing number 75 Gospel Shadow, that can be a problem. But you know, we take those risks, of course. Lancia is a card that also kind of fell out of people's side decks, but I think it's still very good. It's good against Virtual World, very good against Dinosaurs. I'm not sure how it does against other matchups, like depending on if you look at like the Eldritch matchups and stuff like that. Like, I mean, all you're really doing is like stopping their traps, but like if they've already triggered their traps, got them on board, got their Golden Boy on board, it can't be a problem. But I think this card is still worth side decking if you are worried about matchups like that. Again, it's very good against Virtual World, so I think it's still worth playing. And like I said, do not neglect Dinosaurs, so just very good. And the last ones are just very generic. These are like kind of budget options if you don't have access to some of these other cards. Valor and Gnome Material, since it's got the reprint. This card is iffy. Like, it's good against Zoo. It's good against Virtual World if you know when to time it. Valor's just a generic card. I didn't even put Imperm because Imperm just hasn't been seeing a lot of play. I know Imperm got the reprint, but it's still like a $20+ card. I don't know if people are still going to consider that budget or not, but I wanted to mention these because you just never know if they'll come up in certain matchups. It's just good to have them than not have them. And then this is if your deck can play it. There are only 2 decks I know that can play this, and they are literally Pure Zoo and Gren Maju, so I don't know other than that, but if you can play it, I had to include it. I mean, a Macrocosmos is a Macrocosmos. Next, we're going to head to our back row removal. Now, there's not a ton of back row decks in the sense of like Guru, Altergeist, and stuff like that, but they are starting to rear their heads again, so you want to be prepared for that. But the main thing we're looking at is Eldritch, because Eldritch is just a crazy back row deck, along with the 60-card pile deck that I've profiled here on the channel. There's so many trap cards you have to prepare. This is probably one of the best cards against those decks. Evenly is just insane. It also counts as a board wipe. But if you don't have that, then all this stuff will be very generic to you. Cosmic Cyclones to banish stuff. A card that is falling out of favor, but I've seen it in a lot of side decks, is Lightning Storm. So the thing with this is this can hit the back row or it can hit the front row. Sometimes you just need that against Vanity's Ruler or stuff like that. If you're having a problem outing like a Floodgate monster or dealing with back row, this card is probably one of your best options, but you have the budget option of Cosmic Cyclone and of course Twin Twister. Just being able to clear multiple back row is important. I don't really need to explain that. That's like all the main spell and trap removal you'll have in that sense. And then the other one, if you're playing like the 60-card deck like I am, and you play cards like Trap Trick and Lilith, you can play Heavy Storm Duster because it'll just take care of the back row, and you can play multiple copies with Lilith and Trap Trick, so you just see more copies of it. Setting it at end phase, activating it can be a blowout. And then cards to stun your opponents, like spell cards, is anti-spell in order. I've seen this in some decks. I don't know how effective it is. Obviously, there's still a lot of powerful spell cards in the game, but I think that these are just deck dependent. But I again wanted to include them because I don't know what deck you guys are playing, but I've played a range of decks, and sometimes you'll actually see these cards in my side deck. So definitely include these cards if your deck can support them, especially a card like Imperial Order. If you can draw this card and if you can support it, you'll probably win the game. So I wanted to mention those. And next I have what I call the board breakers. Like, we're just trying to just crack every board no matter what. So you shouldn't be surprised you're going to see cards like Dark Ruler and its more expensive counterpart, Forbidden Droplet. Personally, I really like Dark Ruler no more in decks like Pure Mech Knights, but Droplet is insane for its ability to shut down complete boards. It gives you an option against True King of All Calamities with Virtual World, especially if you're playing trap cards. So I think this card is very good. Just, you know, again, I know budget players need to have an option, so Dark Ruler is very good as well. So I wanted to mention those. There's no reason to mention one without the other. You want to go really simple, you can play a Kaiju. I just showed Gamma Seal, it's the weakest one. You want to go 1-for-1 on a Floodgate monster like Dragoon. Card's fantastic. Dragoon's a problem in this format. A lot of decks are playing it, so why not just let them waste their time and then literally Gamma Seal them in play. So that's a really good budget option. And then just to punish overextension. I've literally got torrential and needle sealing. Now, I've seen more needle sealing in the side deck, more torrential in the main deck, but again, it's your deck. You decide how you want to do it. Needle sealing and torrential literally punish overextension. Torrential can be on one summon, it can be on the fourth summon, it can be on anything. Needle sealing just needs 4 monsters, including your own, and then you just destroy the face-up cards. So it just punishes decks like Virtual World and those that overextend. So I wanted to be sure to mention those. Just gives you another way to clear boards if the boards get to be too much and you just want to stop them before they can continue. And last but not least, we have the just very strong going first cards. If you play going second decks like I do, like you play pure Mech Knights, Mech Knight Invoked, Grand Maju, anything like that, any deck that you need a solid card for when going first, even if you don't play a going second deck, these are just generic cards that you can use in order to give yourself the best chance of winning when going first. Of course, the Solemns, I mean, they're the Solemns. I don't need to explain them. This card is insane. This card is even more insane. This is your budget option for Ice Dragon's Prison, in case anyone was going to ask that, because the next card is the very expensive Ice Dragon's Prison. Now, I love this card. I main deck this card in a lot of my decks, but again, you can side deck it, and if you, of course, have it, and hopefully you bought it before it skyrocketed, this card is an out to Dragoon and out to so many problematic cards this format. This card is absolutely insane. Again, if you don't have it in your main deck, side deck it, and if you don't have access to it, use Solemn Strike or a card that can just clear a monster, and it's pretty much the same thing. Maybe not as effective, but it is very strong. To shut down Drytron, this and Droll is just insane, so I had to include it. D-Barrier is just an amazing card this format. Very good against Zoo, very good against Virtual World. Virtual World you call Synchros, Zoos you call XYZs, obviously, and then Ritual against Ritual against Drytron, and you're good to go. So that card can just be a flat out blowout and buy you a whole turn. And then if you really need to go even further than that for certain decks, you still can play the Sanctum and Scythe package. This is just good against extra deck heavy reliant decks. Literally flip the Sanctum, they can't access their extra deck, they usually pass. Not good against Drytron, but that's why we have cards like D-Barrier, just alternatives to decks that would of course go to their extra deck. And the last card, if your deck can support it, is Summon Limit. I have started to see this in a lot more decks. If your deck plays on 1 or 2 summons, this is just very good against the opponent because they can't overextend and try to wombo combo you, because Summon Limit literally limits their summons. And last but not least, before I go, if you want to be that guy, yeah, you could be that guy. That's it, you guys. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Smash that like button if you did. Let's get this video to 100+ likes. Like I said, I'll do these every format for you guys. Why give you guys top 5? Why give you guys top 10 when I can just give you everything that I got, and it just gives you a full idea of things you can use this format that are very effective against the said meta. You got 15 cards, use them wisely. You're going to play more games sided than you will without your side deck, so side accordingly and you'll be good to go. That's all I got to say, you guys. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button. Let me know any cards I missed out, because I definitely missed some cards like Book of Moon, stuff like that. I know you guys will mention it. I just forgot them, didn't include them, don't even have them currently on me, so I'm always leaving room for you guys to leave me ideas in the comments. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.